record right now, so we're good to go.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, I'm going to call the Central Business District Committee meeting to order. Did you hear me?
I heard you.
Okay. Andrew disappeared on me.
Oh, good.
It's all yours, Andrew.
Very good. So the first item on the agenda is, and I'll pull it up here, and then please let me know if you can see it or not. So it's a placemaking plan that we worked with the New River Regional Commission on, and then also worked with Hill Studio on. It basically was a match program with the Appalachian Regional Commission planning grant that we received back in 2018, and we started in late 2018 and then finished up earlier this year. And then basically the Regional Commission had been working on a draft and finalizing it, and then with COVID that delayed things a bit, but we are ready to kind of to bring this plan to you all today. And then I would like to have some guidance on what you believe the next steps are with the review of the plan and sharing it with the full council and the community.
Okay.
And I think at one point or another, I think both members were involved with this plan. I think, Sam, you might have attended a stakeholder meeting in the fall where we looked at the priorities, and we'll get into that. And,
yes, okay.
but, so basically, with this placemaking plan, and certainly we wanted to do it in a way that in future years we could look at other areas of town, but we did focus in on Cambria downtown and the Midtown area, which we really took from Cambria on the north end to Depot on the south end. So that stretch of North Franklin, that includes the Aquatic Center, the high school, Christiansburg Institute, the Kroger, and other shopping destinations.
That's a really good area. I mean, it's pretty big.
It is, and it is kind of our midsection of town that that we really want to be more defined on in the character of it, as we move forward. So we did think that was important, and we have definitely other areas of town that we can look at this at, whether it's Roanoke Street or Radford or in our uptown closer to the mall. But these areas are really towards the core of town. So those as about before, that we really wanted to focus on those core areas first.
Mm-hmm.
So really the plan has 4 major phases, and we studied it for a little over a year, about 15 months, and we looked at first data collection and initial engagement, and I think we've briefed council from time to time during this period, as a regional commission and staff. We held events and got back information. So we also looked at stakeholder and public engagement events. We did data analysis and strategy creation, and went into the plan development. So it really is, the plan is based on extensive data and input from business owners, stakeholders, and staff. And then also, hearing from, stakeholders in many different platforms, and then combining that with looking at key demographic and economic data, really gives us a good understanding for the vision of downtown, as well as Cambria and Midtown. I would just clarify really quickly that there was a bit of a heavier emphasis on downtown, simply because it is a bit of a larger area, and it is our largest traditional commercial area in town. But having said that, I don't think we shortchanged looking at Midtown and Cambria. So just a few numbers. We did have a community survey that was online. We had 971 responses. We had 6 stakeholder events, which had over 40 participants. There were a number of community events, whether it was whether it was Heritage, the Heritage Festival, or the festival that the museum puts on, that was last August, or whether it was basically staff just, the regional commission staff going to the community center and setting up for a day. They also went to a movie event that DCI held last year and gathered responses there. So just there were a number of ways that they went to community events and there's places where people gather to gather responses. And really asking kind of, what do you see as the vision of downtown Cambria, Midtown? What do you like? Where are opportunities to grow? And those lines of questions. So as the data began to roll in, common themes and priorities began to emerge. The group identified 9 overarching goals with 37 strategies for the 3 areas. And we had 9 priority projects that were identified as we move forward through the project that we wanted to see if we could bring our design team in, which is Hill Studio, and really build on those 9 projects, during this process to show kind of, well, if we envision more landscaping in Cambria, well, what does that look like? So Hill Studio really was able to help us out with visualizing those concepts. So the recommendations, the mantra of this is that we're looking at small but meaningful step forwards, and we're looking at building partnerships, and we want to look at everything in detail so that we can move forward and have community buy-in. So with placemaking goals, there were 9 placemaking goals. 4 were downtown, which the first was create a vibrant community gathering space. Our spaces, ensure the best alignment of building uses, which means how do you create that vibrant sense within downtown? And it really does come down to what uses are in the building, and we'll get into that in a little bit more in more detail. The third is prioritize connectivity and accessibility. So how do you connect parking to where people want to be, and how do you make it as easy as you can for people to come to downtown and to get around, and that's the same with Cambria in Midtown really too. And then also, we're looking at how do we increase the leadership and capacity of town and our downtown partners, and kind of overlapping this whole process was the Rally Grant, which really speaks to that as well with with building leadership, and really having really citizens and stakeholders really taking the lead in creating projects that really make a difference for the community. The 2 goals.
Can I throw something else in there?
Sure.
Regional Commission is working with DCI right now on a better mission statement. And I had a nice chat with Mr. Bird this morning.
Oh, great.
And offered, a little bit of feedback. And my hope is that they could find somebody who can attend central business meetings and be involved to speak for those businesses. And that is something that I talked to him about, and I'll talk to Justin as well, because I think this committee is a great partner with DCI.
Yeah, and I do think that, as we get more into it, And I know they have sent liaison before. And so it would be great to pull them in and get an update. Certainly can get that on the agenda in future meetings. For the Cambria goals, the first is to enhance existing community assets to spur vibrancy. So this is really getting around, the walkway system through Cambria. Is there an opportunity for a pocket park in Cambria? There was a lot of discussion from property owners about making Cambria an art center for local artists. And so we're really looking at those community assets, whether that's people or land, or something else, a festival or what have you. Just really exploring that more. And then the second goal is updating facades and increasing accessibility. The Midtown goals are creating a welcoming and cohesive commercial development as you're going up and down North Franklin. Looking at those opportunities for infill and redevelopment and see how they can support the uses, the institutional uses that we have in Midtown, whether it's Christiansburg Institute or whether it's the high school, the aquatic center, or potentially the future rail station. And then prioritize connectivity and accessibility again, because that's a common theme that you'll see, is really just making sure that it's easy to get around. Let me go the right direction. So out of that, as I mentioned, there were, 37 strategies, and so wanted to at least kind of give you a taste of the plan at this point, but it certainly can't go over all strategies. The plan does identify the priority projects that you see on the screen here, and I'll focus in a bit on the downtown projects and then the Cambria projects. And then, so again, the priority projects really helped the team developing the plan look at where do we want to put our resources for design to potentially go ahead and apply for a construction grant. And fast forward, as you know, we did apply for a construction grant with council's permission in December, and we finalized the application in January, submitted that, and then we're awarded the $275,000, which is another agenda item on our agenda here today. So that's the construct a permanent multi-purpose farmers market and community gathering space. It was one priority project. Enhance downtown park to serve both recreational and community events. The third is consider ground floor zoning ordinance revisions. And this is a lot of communities look at restricting the uses on a ground floor to promote more retail, more restaurant uses. So that would be something that came out of this report, but it would be something that would need further study, and probably, if council would want to, refer it to Planning Commission for further study and public input.
Andrew, I was talking with a person in Blacksburg, and isn't that what they started to do in order, but she mentioned it took a while, and I understand that.
Yes, it's a long-term, it's really a long-term approach where, given my work experience there, I was, pretty involved with it in my positions that I had there. So basically, they do require a conditional use permit for offices on the ground floor. And there's a lot to consider there. It can be successful over time. Mm-hmm. It does sometimes make it harder for landowners that are looking to rent space and do not want to wait several months for a conditional use permit process, have a tenant, ready to sign. So there are a lot of things to consider you know, as that, you know, if that is something that, you know, that the council would want to pursue.
Is there and I'm not sure if it's possible, but is there something the town can do to incentivize property owners to kind of align with what we're trying to do with downtown?
I think that's potentially a way to approach it as well. And it's certainly the recommendation here, and I think because it's pretty common, was to look at zoning ordinance revisions. But I do think that there's other ways to incentivize that as well. And you know, it's something that potentially could be through a grant program, like a facade program, if you were to, you know, incentivize more of, you know, retail restaurant type uses, potentially.
That sounds good. I think, I mean, and then I don't mean to like hang on this one, but it's really needed for us. How soon could we actually throw some of these concerns into departments to get some feedback?
Yeah, so I think, you know, we could get it scheduled. I mean, if this is something we want to bring to the full council, and then I'd like to try to bring the whole plan probably at the same time. Central businesses, I mean, there may be some things that central businesses would want to recommend council look at more immediately. You know, and I think with the zoning ordinance revisions, that would be something that we would want Planning Commission, their development subcommittee to review, so it would be a change to the zoning ordinance. But with an incentive program, that's something that, you know, town administration could look at and come up with different ideas to bring back to either central business or to the full council.
Sam, what do you think about that? I think if we present this to council, it would be nice if central business had recommendations to put with it at the same time.
I do, and I know when Andrew is talking about, you know, far as changing these ordinances, you know, once again, of course, I would go to Planning Commission. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I would like to eventually present something to the whole town council. When's the last time we presented them some ideas, Andrew?
I think it's been a little while, and I think this is probably a good chance to do that. I mean, I know as far as when, I mean, I guess the facade program that was presented to the full council from central business.
And we presented the art options too on kickoff, yeah.
Right.
And I guess that's going to have to be modified too, because the budget wasn't as high as we hoped.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we can, right. We can get to that in just a minute, you know, with the, yeah, because I will definitely want to get your feedback on that as well.
Okay.
As we move forward. Yeah. We did apply for 500,000 and we received the 275. So we will need to provide a revised budget to ARC if we're going to, you know, move forward with that. And I do have, in working with DHCD, I have some questions about, you know, how the money can be used, you know, in what form and how, you know, how things can be modified and such. So I do want to get those questions answered through DHCD, and that I have not been able to get with them on those answers because they represent Appalachian Regional Commission.
Who are you working with again?
Department of Housing and Community Development.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's really regarding, you know, as Councilwoman Sachs noted, really working with the farmers market community gathering space on Hickok. If you know, if that is, you know, we want to make sure that you know that we understand the parameters now that we're getting a reduced amount of money.
Okay, thank you.
And so the last two priorities are encourage workforce and market rate rental housing downtown, because it's really that principle that you're creating the market to support the uses, and beyond a 9 to 5 type of mentality, that there is a vibrancy after 5 in the evenings and on the weekends, and that's certainly something that we can enhance in our downtown. last is collaborate with Downtown Christiansburg Inc. and other downtown partners regarding downtown related initiatives. And that's really just expanding our capacity to do more and really trying to get the weighted wheel that we have. If this is a flywheel, I mean, once we get that momentum going, then really we have, there will be groups that will be doing things that will be enhancing downtown. And we really wouldn't need to be in the lead of that. It'll start really, it would start really happening on its own, which is, I think ultimately is the goal, is really, we want to be the impetus involved, but not necessarily, own all projects and initiate all projects.
Right. I think that was a topic of discussion for DCI too in the future, is facilitating potentially more town projects, which would be great.
And then the two Cambria priority projects are create a Cambria streetscape plan, and then also, again, and this could be really town-wide, looking at incentives for new businesses. And this happens to be focused towards Cambria, but really looking at are there ways with older buildings, that the town participate in incentivizing that, whether it's through relief for sewer hookups, or that's how other communities have done it, in a series of other incentives such as that. So those are things that would be that could be explored. And this actually is something that council had mentioned as well at the retreat this winter as well. And I think that was more in context of downtown, but I think it really relates to all of our older commercial areas. And by older commercial areas, I mean some portions of the corridors along Roanoke Street and Radford Street as well. So I think we're really starting these core areas, but we can build as we move out.
Andrew,
Yes, sir.
do we know anything as far as the depot, depending on selling people or what? Because at one time I heard there was a thing about selling it.
I have not been in contact with the owner recently. That's probably something that would be good to reach out to her to kind of to have a discussion, and just a touch base as well.
Yeah, because I've been by that several times. It doesn't look like they're open for business like they were at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how they're helping us.
Right.
I think I saw online where she's doing people can come in and shop, just so many at a time.
Okay.
Yeah. It would make a great museum.
Yeah, it certainly is the focal point of Cambria.
Yeah.
Beautiful architecture.
Mm-hmm.
So, once I send out the plan to you all, and I'm happy to provide a paper copy as well, you'll see that each, the priority projects have more information and detail behind them. This is an example of the multi-purpose farmers market and community gathering space, and it just has more information that is, to try to explain the vision for the space.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not featured here, it's featured on a later slide, but each priority project also has kind of what are the short-term steps? What are the midterm steps? What are the long-term steps for creating, for realizing this vision? So this is, was listed as a priority project for Downtown Park, and Hill Studio kind of took the vision of an amphitheater in this regard. I mean, it certainly could be something different. It could be an ice rink. It could be, it could be market area. It could be really anything, but it really just shows how the space could be transformed. for a really purposeful, functional community space.
Hey, Andrew,
Yes, sir.
at one time I thought we were looking into getting an ice rink. What happened to that?
So the one of the earlier drawings that Hill Studio had done was an ice rink in this area, and which during the summer kind of created more of a just a community area that you could have concerts and things of that sort. They took the direction here as a with a band shell and then a amphitheater, but that doesn't necessarily need it does eliminate the idea of the of the ice rink. I think it's really the direction that we would want to go now.
All right. Because I thought at one time we was talking about maybe putting up a temporary ice rink on Hickok Street. That's what I'm referring to.
Right. Yeah.
I think, Sam, I had asked Randy about that, and I want to say he told me that the pitch, like how a road goes straight and then comes down, and
Yes.
that might pose more problem than we thought to make it something level.
Okay. I just haven't had anything for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the pitch did kind of present an issue, and also there was limited space on Hickok that would create more of a limited size for an ice rink. That's not something that has been heavily pursued here,
Okay.
just because of cost really at this point.
Okay.
Hey, Andrew,
you.
right now, this downtown park, it does not connect to the library or the laptop.
So the
I'm trying to
downtown
look at the map.
Yeah, so let me see. Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Well, I'm gonna have to say no. I don't see it.
Oh, really? Okay, how about?
Wait a minute.
Do you
Nope.
see? No, okay, maybe it's not coming across. But if you see the loop in the trail up there, that's they had the idea of enlarging it so for a larger walking loop. That's right between the fire department and the rescue squad on the left. And then if you back up, coming more towards the bottom of the page, you kind of run into the library parking lot. So it would be connected to the library.
I really like the connection to the library. That's a great idea.
And continuing on the story walk idea that's there today, and
Mhm.
just it's a great feature.
Yep.
Community.
Very nice. I'm not sure I'm personally totally sold on using space between rescue and fire, only because I feel like if they ever needed to use it, it's not available.
Yeah, I think the idea was to just create more of a purposeful walking loop. If you're at downtown park, you could take a stroll and come around, kids, and then come back. So it was really just trying to utilize that public space. But I agree with that concern as well as as they're growing and such.
It's a great plan, though.
Excellent. And so this is another priority project page, which this is for considering the zoning ordinance revisions. A drawing for looking at the squares was incorporated in this, and this was just one idea in trying to get us to think about how do we draw more attention to the squares. It's such a prominent feature in our downtown, and it's very nice. The four squares are very nice, but how can we draw more attention to those? One way could be a different material pattern, whether it's stamped concrete or brick or what have you, in the four squares. That's just an illustration of what that potentially could look like.
That is a great way to help it stand out, for sure.
Full disclosure: this is the downtown sign is really just for the there's not a proposed downtown sign right there. So, so
Okay.
you pretty much know you're in downtown when you're there, but they did put that in just to show, you know,
Okay.
the flavor of where you were. So. And then so with Cambria, they looked at the streetscape, and the plan actually has kind of a view of what this would look like from street level. But I did want to at least include the landscaping plan. So the depot is on your right, lower below the train tracks. And so you'll just see in the area between the antique store and the depot, would be a median and landscaping. Across the tracks of the way there would be medians and landscaping as well. It would have to be studied very closely to see what we would put there and to see how it would work. But it does give a good idea of what enhanced landscaping could do for this area even more, with creating it more of a destination. And that was one thing that we saw through public input was a lot of times people just consider Cambria as a place to cut through.
Right.
So we're really trying to redefine it as a destination area.
Now that space next to the depot, would we need to get permission to do this?
There would be a lot of coordination with Norfolk Southern, because we would need to, because really the depot sits on Norfolk Southern land. And so we would be working with them to potentially create parking off the street, and then also adding additional landscaping on the Norfolk Southern property.
Is there really enough room to put a median in like that?
It would have to be engineered for sure. And our engineering department at first was, they had their reservations. They're willing to go along with it to show, okay, well, let's see how this can work. But they were mainly concerned because they're along Depot. The original drawing, you actually you had to do a U-turn kind of around by the railroad tracks and come back around electrical supply. And engineering department said, no, that just, that would not work.
Yeah, that's a tight space in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they opened it up, but I still think, we would, I think it is more feasible north of the tracks, up by Blue Ridge and Bain Oil. There's more room there, and that so whether all of this is feasible or not, we just need to study more.
Okay.
If that's the direction council would want to go.
And the potential of the school system moving out too, that's a great space if we work with a potential new buyer. I mean, we might could put some scaping in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was, we looked at kind of a drawing of, because we knew they may sell. It was certainly hypothetical at the time of the study, but I looked at what would happen, what could happen with that lot if if the asphalt area, the bus area was converted to, to more of a green park space area.
And actually, just a side thought is if the town can discuss possible incentives, that might be a great place to bring in a draw, like a brewery or a good restaurant. To bring more people downtown. I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And right, and unfortunately, the brewery that was considering the Roar well drilling building, the old well drilling building, got to a point where they just could not make the numbers work with the renovation dollars that would be needed to bring that facility up. So it is something we're going to see with really all businesses, and if there's to see, because that I think that will be an obstacle that will present itself again as we're looking at bringing these areas back more.
It is, and I really think we have to focus a lot of attention on what we can do, because if you think about new businesses coming in, every town is going to want new business because they need it badly. And I don't want us to be left behind, so to speak. So, you know, conversations about what is fair and what we can do, to me, would be a priority.
Absolutely. And you know, and also that, you know, as businesses are, you know, recover and we're able to, you know, work with them, you know, to do business recovery as best we can, you know, they're ready to expand, then, you know, we have more ability to accommodate that and to be attractive for them to retain the businesses as well.
That would be an excellent conversation for small business administration lady that covers our area. You know,
Yeah.
DCI, the town, get all those players together, and I know we can come up with something good.
Right.
Yep. All right, sorry, I'll stop on that. Thanks.
No, that's super exciting.
Start feeling a little excited, you know.
Yeah, watch your clock.
Right. Okay. I'll move.
That'll be good.
So this is another priority project, which was for incentives for new businesses to fill in empty storefronts, and so it just gives a bit of background. You know, this is true to the other priority projects. Lists a couple case studies that will be interesting, you know, for us to look at. You know, we move, you know, towards these projects more, and then I mentioned this earlier. It kind of talks about, you know, how do you get started, you know, and then who do you partner with, and how do you know when you're there, when you realize the vision. So, so each of the priorities projects have, you know, this Just Start, the buddy system, and signs of success as well. Mm-hmm. And then, so really, this is where I'd love. I'm sorry. Did someone say something? No. Okay. The next steps really is where I would love to get the committee's feedback on kind of I believe, you know, we'd like to get the full plan out to central business, and probably at this time I want to get it to council, whether central business would want to wait till August meeting and take it up again there, or have a meeting just to talk about this plan more interim. We can discuss that. We'd love to get some guidance on when we think it's ready, you know, to present to council and share, and you know, when it's ready to share with citizens, businesses, and organizations, which probably is sooner than later. But I did at least, you know, get some feedback from the committee on those items.
So when would you be ready for another meeting with central business on this part only? Because apparently that's a lot of information.
Yeah, I think, you know, if maybe we get the plan out to you all, and then give you a little time to read through it, or just get familiar with it, and then maybe we could walk through the plan a bit more in detail.
All right, that sounds good.
And so I would think maybe in 10 days to 2 weeks.
I was just thinking the same thing. I thought 2 weeks would be great.
Right.
Great. So that, looking at my calendar here, so that could be either, yeah, July 29th would be 2 weeks from today. If that would be something, that would be.
Now, we're talking about our next meeting or our next council meeting?
Well, this would be the next Central Business Committee meeting, if I'm understanding correctly.
Okay.
Because we have a Central Business Committee meeting scheduled. We're a little early this month, but we're kind of catching up for lost time as well.
I understand.
But our next scheduled meeting, if we go on the schedule that we've been using, you know, in the past, would be August 26th.
Well, I'd like to do it before then.
Okay.
I think like a couple of weeks, you know, for us to meet again just to discuss this part of it. Because I said, once again, there is a lot of information here.
Great.
Sam, would you want to do this before the next council meeting so it could be presented at that meeting? That would just back us up a few days.
Well, when's our next council meeting? That's
so it'd be the 28th, July 28th. Yeah.
So we could possibly meet the day before instead of the day after.
Okay.
But you're gonna send us some additional information though, correct, Andrew?
Yes, I would send the plan to you. Yep.
Okay, that'll work for me.
Sounds good, Sam.
So,
Thank you, ma'am.
so Monday, July 27th? Does a noon time work for you all? Okay, great.
And I guess
What
we can
next?
determine at that time if we're still Zooming or not.
Right.
Now, Andrew, would you want us to give our feedback to you ahead of time so then we can prepare it with an agenda? Or just address it at that time?
Either way works, really.
Okay.
I think about getting it to Andrew, let him just present,
Okay.
Mhm.
put more weight on you. Why not?
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Sounds good.
And so I'm clear, we would want to then present at the 28th as well, council?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was thinking too, because we need to, make some action on this one.
Okay. Very good. And that is really all I had for that night. That was longer than I had anticipated.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot of good information though, and I can't wait for this to get to council and, to share it.
Good.
That's what
Yeah.
says, a lot of information in there. Okay,
Yeah, the regional commission, really, they were great to work with and did a great job. And
good.
very happy.
We're lucky to have a group like that in our area.
Absolutely.
Are we ready for B?
Yes.
Okay, carry on.
Good job, Sam.
Well, hey, I gotta rank y'all in. That's all right. We all good. Andrew, it's back on you.
Okay. We're going to pull up our agenda here real quick.
B, Adam B.
So the Public Art Advisory Commission and
I can speak a few minutes on that if you want.
yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so to anybody watching, and Sam and Andrew, we had a meeting yesterday, and much of it was review about the fundamentals, the foundation, getting a plan in place. Everybody's very excited, and the energy in this group is absolutely amazing. But we can't just go willy-nilly, for lack of better words. So I don't think that we're going to see a large amount of progress quickly, but without that good solid foundation of direction and how they're going to look at the art projects, how are they going to compensate artists, all that has to be determined before we go public and throw things out there for people to respond to. But there is a new page on the website and the brochure that Andrew has shared, which is wonderful. So we're starting to at least get information out about the arts board. And that's about it right now. I mean,
Okay.
I just can't express how awesome it is to have people who are excited about this together around a table. It's wonderful.
Did all members attend?
No, we had one missing due to a baby being born in her family. And there is one person that I did want to bring up today that has missed both meetings. And I think at some point, do we have any rules on that, Andrew? Because at some point we need to replace them.
Right. I mean, for this particular committee and the bylaws, we didn't, I mean, the expectation was that they would make every meeting, and they committed to that.
Sure.
Sort of being appointed. And so I can reach out to the person and just kind of say, well, is this a good fit? Does it work for your time? And because the person was very excited about the opportunity, when they were appointed. So, so I think it's just a matter of, is it working for them in their current schedule?
Right. Things could have changed in the life,
Yeah.
But
Okay.
have they reached out to you since the first?
They have not. I've left, a couple messages and I've not heard back.
That's the part that concerns me. If something comes up, you just communicate about it, but
Yeah.
missing 2 meetings?
Yeah. Well, I think Andrew should reach out once and then we'll make the decision. I mean, since it's not in writing, hey, I hate to use the term make it up as we go, but this is no. If they
And
can't,
it's not that big of a group, so every
Yeah.
person who participates, their information is very valuable.
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, well, we'll just wait for you to let us know, Andrew, then, if that's all right,
Okay,
after
absolutely.
reaching out. Okay.
Will do. Yeah, I'll reach out to her. Very good.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and share my screen again. Let me try this one more time. Okay. One last time here.
All right.
Sorry for the delay.
That's all right.
Okay, do we see the agenda now?
I do.
Okay, very
Yep.
good. So really, at this point, we do have Marty Gordon on the line. To just talk a little bit about the 2020 farmers market and everything that he's been up to, and the event. I just would like to preface it with everything going on. It's really, I believe, been a strong showing for the market in these unprecedented times, and a really needed community gathering place. So with that, Marty, if you could unmute and do your video, it'd be great to hear from you.
Marty's gonna sleep.
How about now?
Perfect. Great to hear your voice.
Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon already. I think we've been doing really well. We're averaging right now probably around 250, 260. We had the one day of 360. So it's been going steady, even with everything that we're restricted on doing. We're still under a lot of restrictions, and I think we're taking more restrictions and doing more than a lot of the others are doing around the state. So that's been very important. And the vendors have been very receptive to what we're doing. And I hope that everyone has had a chance to at least get there once to see that every week there's a different theme, and the vendors have bought into it. And they're trying to build upon everything they do, looking ahead at the different events that are coming up. Our strategy was we needed to have at least 6 lockdown produce vendors. We've got 4 that are steady. I continue to market every week to try to get as many more as 2 to 3. And then the other objective was to have as many as 5 seasonal vendors. And when we talk about seasonal vendors, a prime example is what's going to happen in September is that Cinquin Farms and at least another farms that raise pumpkins are going to be there for the month of December or September. So we're looking at those. We can bring them in at the different times when they do have the produce and crop available. But been very happy, and record sales almost every week for almost all the vendors. Coming up this week is honey, is the theme, and people will have honey there. But the bees got racked in the past 2 weeks by the weather, and discovered that it was at least 2 trees did not bloom. So a lot of the local honey producers have had problems. So it's not going to be as great as I'd hoped. But then the week after that, from now on, every 3rd Thursday of the month is going to be Where's the Beef? And beef producers are going to come in and sell meat products. And you'll see that the prices are very reasonable, and in most cases, as the same or lower than what you're seeing at the grocery stores with the possible shortage. So we'll see that next week as that starts out, and that'll be once a month that they'll start coming. Next week, or the week after, will be Christmas in July, where we're featuring the Montgomery County Christmas store. And because they're going through some rough patches right now, so they want to be featured, and it works out perfect. And then the first Thursday of August will be Dairy Day, where we'll have different people there with dairy products, including Homestead Creamery will be there with their ice cream truck. So, you know, we try to do a different food truck every week, and I think that's benefiting us. And, you know, it's giving people an opportunity to have a place to sell their product, especially food trucks that don't have much of the business right now. So I think that's helping them, and I think we'll see it in the tax dollars.
You know, Marty, the several times I've been down there now, I've talked to the vendors, especially the food trucks that come in, and everyone has just raved about how good they've done and how great you are to work with. So I wanted to pass that along. We have some very happy vendors.
Appreciate that. And I think that was a big thing that we needed to work on, was the communication and involvement of the vendors to make them feel like it was their farmers market, and a bunch have stepped up. Right now we are restricted. There's, you know, it's hard to imagine, but we had an engineering and measured off. There's 44 vendor spaces on that street. Now that's tight, that's side by side. So right now the only thing we're doing is trying to keep that social distancing. The most and max that we're working with right now is 20. So we've had to turn away some people, which is, you know, a good thing, I think. You know, people have expressed interest, but we're averaging probably about a dozen vendors a week. This week we're going to have 14, and you know, it's been picking up steadily off and on. Several have called back and wanting to come back and wanting to know what themes are going on during the week that they might fit into.
Mm-hmm. How are the website orders going?
It took off to start with, but to be honest, the vendors and the farmers have been overwhelmed with online, because a lot of them are also doing the Radford and Blacksburg markets on the weekend. So they're also online with them. So they haven't been able to keep up with it. So at times the online is taken away from the markets. You know, I think it was a very viable idea to look at to start with, and it gave them another marketing tool. But now that we've opened, you know, in the fashion we have, it kind of hurts them in a lot of ways.
I understand businesses just don't have that extra personnel to tackle something like that.
Yeah, I've got at least 6 vendors right now. They don't have the staff to be able to come.
Right.
We've got 2 coming all the way from Rural Retreat off and on, and they've managed to do it with grandkids and children.
Yeah.
Mark,
So do we have a plan on shutting that part of it down?
We haven't had any. We haven't had any problems. You know, I think it's worked out well the way we've been doing it, and I know you like the barricade, Sam. I do too, and it's helped control the crowd a little bit.
Right. I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, Andrew. The barricades that we're using, our 10 barricades, we plan on using those all throughout the summer.
yes, I mean, I think if Marty and, you know, Parks and Rec staff believes that, you know, they're needed to meet, you know, to meet the health district standards and CDC standards, then yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm looking for 2 reasons for that. And then also, and this is just me personally, keeping our properties more or less separated from the church, since we kind of, I guess, have sort of a little disagreement going back and forth. You know, we're not encouraging people to go on the church property. And to me, if we got the barricades up, then we're kind of telling people this is the town side of it.
So you're thinking of just like being a better respectful neighbor and keeping people off their property. I can understand that.
Yes, yes, and once again, I know people gonna go through the barricades, and they do.
Mhm.
That's on them. We as a town are not encouraging people to go on somebody else's properties. So
Right.
I like the barricades to stay, but that's a decision that we as a group can make.
It's really helped to control the flow of the traffic in and out of the market, so that's been a big plus.
Okay,
I support that, Sam.
thank you.
Marty, was mentioned at council last night about a Stuff the Bus event that's going to be happening, working with United Way. Is that this Thursday?
Yeah, that's scheduled for tomorrow. They're going to
Okay.
kick off the Stuff the Bus will be kicked off at the farmers market. And that's a couple of things we're looking at doing is doing more events that will help nonprofits kick off their activities. There's a fine line there because we got to make sure that there's not a gathering place. We want to control it.
Are they gonna bring the bus down, or is it?
No, they hadn't been able to work out bringing a bus yet, but
Okay.
we had talked about it. They're just going to set up a tent, what the plan is right now.
All right, because I was concerned about where we're gonna park the bus.
Well, we've got a perfect area. We can pull that in towards the back where I put the food trucks. So if and when we have more things like that, we have perfect areas to pull things in.
Okay, but once again, it'd be on town property.
Correct.
Okay,
Have you talked to Dr. Meyer about getting a bus?
I left that completely up to United Way. They said that because of COVID-19 and what's been going on, they were told it'd be kind of hard to even get a bus for Walmart right now.
okay.
But yet they're going to have kids go back to school soon?
Well, we don't, that's not our call.
Start that one. No. Okay. Gotcha. I think it's great, Marty. Something I wanted to mention that I think that you're doing very well are the articles that you write about the vendors. You really learn a lot about their history and how they're doing their farming. And I think that really is good education and communication. So thank you for that.
And I don't know if you noticed the new posting as of yesterday. I'm involving local businesses in the downtown area, within the 4-block area. They're going to feature every week, going to feature a business, do a story on them. And then they're going to set up at the market on that week that they're featured. And they're going to give something away, trying to make the downtown businesses feel like they have ownership of the market, where in the past they said they never knew what was going on. And by bringing them in and letting them be a part of it, I think it's got them a little bit excited too and enthused.
Absolutely. Good job, Marty.
Awesome. So the next item on the agenda is the ARC Construction Grant Award, which I mentioned, which we were awarded the $275,000. Again, and I think I covered this, I need to get up with Department of Housing and Community Development, get some questions answered about the flexibility of those dollars, and then get a revised budget to them. It is something that maybe if the committee's okay with it, at our next meeting that we have on the 27th, I can just give a brief update, because it may be something that we want to bring to council the following day to get their input on just on moving forward or next steps with that, because the Department of Housing and Community Development, they need some paperwork this week.
Okay.
Us, but then we will need to, just want to make sure that, what we had in, planned is going to be able to be done with the limited, with less money. So that's what we're looking at now. So if that's okay, I'd like to have that just the only other item on the agenda for the 7th. Just to update central business on that.
Sounds good to
Andrew, I
me.
have a question. Is the town looking at keeping the proposal within the 275, or are you looking at maybe future budget to add to it and enhance it?
I think it's a good discussion. I mean, certainly we can make the structure smaller, and then just probably less kind of bells and whistles, and do some value engineering to the project, or we could try to keep it within the same budget, but identify another revenue source.
Right.
Which,
Okay, all right.
which may be difficult in this time and place, and that would obviously need a budget amendment as well if it was going to be a general fund expense or something along those lines. But that's not certainly something that that I think at this point we would just really need to look at kind of how would we scale it back? What are our different options? That we can then bring to I can bring to central business and then to the full.
And hopefully by the time this comes to fruition, we actually are out of COVID and businesses are back growing. That'll make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Cool. So that's really all I had for that. And then downtown special events. As you know, all of our spring events were canceled, and then Heritage Days is canceled as well, which was an August event. Wilderness Trail is still hopeful, and we're hopeful with them in the middle of September that things would clear and we would be able to have an event. We recognize the potential that we may not be able to have the event. We're still in phase 3 in September, then the event really could not take place because basically there's a limit of about 250 people. We couldn't guarantee that we could limit the crowd to 250 people.
So when it comes down to it, is that going to be the town's call?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to meet back with the special events committee is going to meet back with with Kiwanis Club on August 3rd to make that final decision, because then that gives them enough time to move forward with advertising and to locking in vendors or not. So
Okay.
we'll be having a final decision, I believe, in the next couple of weeks on that.
All right. Sounds good.
At this point, the food truck rodeo is still, they're kind of in the same boat of whether, and that's an October date that they're looking
In
at.
October. Okay. Thank you.
And those are really the 2 special events at this point. The town does not have any events planned, downtown for public gathering for the fall.
Okay.
Which I know will be ready when the time comes, but it's just not the time right now. Yep. So the next item is the Virginia Tourism Rally Grant, and Marissa, I was not able to make the last meeting, but about fundraising, and they are looking at designs now. The group is, really coming together, and they I think did a great job with pulling together the survey that got a lot of really good responses and a lot of great write-in responses as well.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of good feedback, and the designer they're working with, Steve Simonis from Balzer & Associates, was able to take that and come up with some preliminary designs that I think would be really are going to really work well for the space. But Steve is refining some of the drawings and then going to bring that back to the committee in a couple weeks. And then again, fundraising is going to be something that they really look at, really start working on very hard, as well as getting the broader community back involved. My understanding is it really probably would not be a construction project till the spring. Is that your understanding, Melissa? Or Marissa, at this point?
Yes. That is. They were hoping to get started after the summer and be done before, poor weather hit. And if possible, I think it'd be a great idea to ask Ellie to come to our next meeting.
Okay.
And, let her present an update from DCI Or even it can be added to council to give an update to everyone. Either way, where we can share the info.
Okay.
But I'd love to see DCI, present and sharing information. I think that will help community support too. Because there's a lot that they're doing. It's just not heavily publicized.
Right.
I think that would be very helpful.
Absolutely. And so probably won't, since we're going to focus on the placemaking plan at the next meeting, I want to invite DCI or Ellie at the following meeting, maybe in August.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. A month.
Okay, great.
Or
Excellent.
a month and a half, yeah.
Very good. Excellent.
I have one thing at the very end. I'll let you talk about the clock and then I'll throw it in there.
Okay, and I know Randy and I were talking about this briefly before, and really it's, I guess the conversation was kind of put on hold, this winter, and so we're back. It's kind of, press the unpause button. And so the question becomes, where do we want to go with it now? We had a cost for renovating the clock. I think Randy was going to click in here to provide a bit additional information. If not, because I believe in December with the committee, we shared the cost of the clock itself and the renovation that it would, or the cost of the renovation of the clock.
So the town has already made an investment into the clock?
No, it was, we provided the cost to central business.
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Yeah, because I think the last time we talked about this clock deal is that we had two or three council members that had ideas of what to do, as far as where to put, what type of clock and stuff like that. So I'd like to still get their input eventually down the road. All right, Randy, how are you?
Sure. I think that was basically the question is, do we simply replace the insides and the face of the clock, or do we pursue a separate structure, maybe having simply a clock rather than a pole in it?
Well, I would think, once again, I would like to get input from the other council members. That way they can't say central business did A, B, C, and D without their input. I mean, they can still say it.
I think that before we go to council, I would really appreciate it if we could invite Bob to a meeting, and from his mouth to our ears, we can hear exactly what he wants, and take that into consideration before we go to council.
I agree with that. You talking about having just him come to central business?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the information of the two options that were shared back in December. And again, this does not have the option of a standalone clock as well. I think there were some nice pictures of potential standalone clocks as well. Obviously, I think probably would have a comparable or greater cost than replacing the existing clock.
Okay, I can barely see that cost.
Oh, can you? Okay.
For the replacement of basically the insides of the clock and the face, it's $4,100.
Okay.
The other thing we had looked at is basically replacing the face of the clock with a metal face that said "Welcome to Downtown" or something to that effect. That was $540. That wasn't really preferred.
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, when we took to council the possibility of the $4,100 for replacing the insides, it was suggested that we maybe look at the possibility of buying a freestanding clock.
Okay.
And perhaps, during the discussions with the art grant on Hickok, clock could be moved down to that space and become more of a permanent fixture. Just something to think ahead and consider, especially with Bob at the table, and we can talk about it.
Right, like I said, that's something we want to get Bob in, because it may be, he may hit it in the understanding that's going to be placed where it's at, but you're right,
Mhm.
try to get Bob's input.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we definitely have more discussion, and it's hard to move forward until we get Bob's
Agreed.
input. So I'm kind of thinking table this until he can come back.
Okay.
Sounds good to me, because I definitely, I agree with that. I'd like to have Bob there as much as possible.
So I'll
Agreed.
to the August 26th meeting then.
Yes. Thank you, Randy.
No problem.
And that's, I think that's all that was on the agenda, except for other items.
That'll be agenda, that'll be, whose calls it? I know who that is. Go ahead.
I just have one thing.
Go
Way
ahead.
before COVID, I had sent an Excel spreadsheet to prioritize our projects so we can focus on, 2-3 things at a time. I'd like to bring that back up and see if that's a possibility. I know I like to do that, because if I've got 50 tasks in a week, it's easier to look at 10 a day.
Mhm.
How do you guys feel about prioritizing what we discuss and tackling projects?
Well, I agree with that, because I mean, like I say, right now, even on our agenda today, we covered a lot of territory.
Mhm.
I kind of like say, even on our agenda, if we can start narrowing it down to what, 4 items or something like that, we can focus more and more instead of having, and nothing against anyone, because I know we're playing catch up right now.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
not sure. Sometimes my brain can only take so much.
And I think too that even though we have great ideas, it usually involves staff. And I know staff is stressed, so I don't want to put too much on them at once
Yeah.
either. Yeah.
And we do have, I took them off of this agenda, but I did create a document called tracking items as well, so we can look at that and see how that integrates into, into the prioritization list
Okay.
as well, because a number of those things have, been kind of shifted to the art-related items have been shifted to the Public Art Advisory Committee.
That helps a lot.
So at the next meeting, we could take a look at that. I'll pull up that from an earlier email, Excel spreadsheet, and then look at the tracking items and bring that back for discussion.
That'd be great.
And I think a regular meeting too has a lot of updates as well. So, I guess we're always going to have a good portion of the meeting as updates, that aren't really project related. So I guess it's a matter of that balance.
Mhm.
Okay.
Discussing projects as well as just, getting updated on events and the farmer's market and other items.
Right.
Yeah. Because once again, we're playing catch up. When's the last time we did have a meeting, Andrew? It's been what, 4 or 5 months?
I think it was the end of January.
January.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know we're playing catch up, but I like the idea of having some type of tracking sheet or something, so we know
Yeah.
where we're at.
And adding goals in mind, so if we have a task, what is our goal to get it finished, and try to work hard to stay on track.
Right.
Yeah. And some things may just have to be put off because, attention cannot be given to them like it should. And I would rather take the time and do it right than try to push things. So I really, really like that idea.
I agree.
Yep.
All right. So our next meeting is going to be July 27th, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And it's going to mainly just be with that one item.
correct. And an update on the ARC construction grant.
Okay.
If you're looking at the Wednesday, I believe you mean the 26th.
So we were looking at
Monday.
the
If we do it the day before the council meeting, then it can be presented at the council meeting. So we backed it up from Wednesday to Monday.
Because that'd be the 24th then.
What happened?
so we're looking at July.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
It's a-
All right, Andrew.
August 26th.
Yeah, okay. It's the 27th.
Okay. You on board, Randy?
Okay, yes.
All right.
I was looking at the August meeting, sorry.
Understand.
Hey, I have a quick
Still
question.
got a meeting.
And maybe this is Melissa directed, but can the attendees use their chat in order to ask a question or participate with us?
Sure, it's not necessarily me directed. I mean, if you guys want to do that, I think the reason that that wasn't enabled right now is just normally when we're meeting in person, we don't have public comment at committee meetings. So if we want to change that, I don't know what the rules are there. Maybe that's a Andrew question too, or up to you guys, but that's the only
Okay,
consideration.
somebody on the attendee list had just asked me that question real quick, so I wanted to make sure it was addressed before we left.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's what I just want, if we do that, can we stay on track? You know,
right. What about offering an email that comments can be sent to and they are looked at prior to the next meeting? That way there can be some engagement without drawing out an hour meeting into a longer one. Is that an option legally, like for FOIA and situation?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it is a committee, Randy, and please correct me. You know, it would be a committee decision whether you'd want to accept, you know, comments or not during the meeting.
That's correct. It's really up to chair of the committee at committee meetings.
Okay. All right, Sam, that one's on you.
thank you, ma'am.
Unless you're having a public hearing for whatever reason.
Sure.
You're not really required to have public hearings. Normally, it's typically council public hearings. So.
Mhm.
All
I
right.
think especially central business, this is such a committee that so many people have an interest in.
Well, once again, I like to get their input, but once again, I just don't want to drag out our meeting to 3 hours.
Sure.
But whether it be, if they can definitely send it to us in advance in the email form would be great.
Mhm.
And then if that doesn't work, then we'll try the online, see what happens. If it becomes too much, then we'll just convert back.
I think it really works well with council and Melissa sharing them with us. Is it okay for us to do the same thing, or who would they be sent to?
So, I mean, we could certainly do a separate email for central business, or it could be a matter of people just emailing, you know, you all or staff, and then we circulate it out, you know.
Okay, I think that's very fair because ultimately we do want their input.
Oh, yes.
You know, so this is a good way to do it, I think. Yeah.
And I can see they may have questions as we're discussing things. So I guess we need to look at probably 2 or 3 different ways of doing this, because I'm like, I want the community involved because it's there for them.
And it can help form the following agenda. I'm a little
Yes.
concerned about it changing the current agenda. So yeah, comments that are emailed in can be added to the next discussion maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. Do we
Thanks
have
for
anything?
obliging.
Do we have anything else?
No, sir.
So once again, our next meeting is July the 27th. All right, at 12 noon.
All right.
Very good.
All right, if nothing
Yeah.
else.
As a quick clarification, that will that be a Zoom meeting?
Yes.
For the July 20th.
Yeah, I think it's yes.
Okay, very good. I thought so, but I just wanted to clarify before we all got off.
All right. Central Business Committee meeting is adjourned. Have a good day.
Have a good day.